Hi, I'm Michael Glenn, and I'd like to welcome you to the Employer Branding EXP that's going to be happening on May 21st, 2025 this year. Today, I'm joined by the one and only Colette O'Neill, and we're going to talk about all things employer branding. Specifically, we're going to be talking about AI and how we can use it and actually step up your game using AI. But also, more importantly, we're going to be talking about how you can use AI in a more human way. We know that we're using a lot of AI these days, so we're losing a little bit of that human touch. And so this is interesting crossroads that we're at right now with AI and employer branding. But surprisingly, we're not using it that much as we would like to. And let's be honest, it does feel a little overwhelming, and it's a lot to learn and jump into, and it's rapidly changing as well. But that's why I asked Colette to join us here at the Employer Branding EXP and on this call today, so we can kind of just get a quick overview of what she's going to be talking about at the event, but also to kind of really understand how you can jump right into AI and start using it without sacrificing any authenticity. So with all that being said, Colette, thank you so much for being here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to these days?
Sounds good. Thank you so much, Michael, for having me. Well, let me tell you a little bit about me. For those that don't know me, I started my career as a recruiter, well, I'll say decades ago, and over the years transitioned into employer branding, probably long before we ever thought of or heard of employer branding. So in the simplest form, for over 20 years, I've been basically fixing the talent attraction and retention gaps that hurt employer brands. Well, in essence, the bottom line, through my company Advance, we specialize in EVP development, recruitment marketing, and employer brand activation, ultimately ensuring organizations they don't just look at it externally, but they also are delivering internally on the employee experience. So in the spirit of our discussion today, our big focus has been AI in employer branding. So we created the AI mastery methodology, which is the exact process we use to build employer brands with AI. And this is the key, while keeping it authentic. So my goal overall is to empower as many employer branders out there to leverage the AI the right way, where it serves the brand, not replaces the human touch.
That's awesome. And there's so much going on with AI right now. And I have to be honest, I put a lot in ChatGPT and a lot of these other platforms. And like you, I kind of work for myself, but a lot of companies right now are hesitant to let their departments or their employees just freely jump into these platforms because they're worried about some of the proprietary or confidential information getting out. So my question for you is, how can these companies strike a balance there?
Well, that is probably one of, if not the biggest concerns when it comes to AI and leaders. So that's a great call out. The one thing about HR, in particular, talent acquisition, employer branders, they know using AI can be exceptionally powerful, but they're worried about leaking proprietary or confidential insights about the organization into that public AI kind of ecosystem. And that's a fair concern. The solution, in my mind, it's to own your AI. So instead of banning using AI, create your own AI platform, and one that is trained on your company's employer brand, your messaging, your personas, all the non-identifying insights, but it stays secure within the organization itself. So we actually set this up for clients with a custom internal AI tool. Again, employer branding, talent acquisition, and marketing teams can then use this to generate content, to draft messaging, to analyze brand data safely, and of course, consistently. So this way AI works for your brand, not against it. So from my experience, AI is not the risk. It's actually the lack of strategy. So companies that take control of their AI usage will have a major, major competitive advantage.
All right, let's pivot here for a second. And I hear exactly what you're saying. And also to kind of piggyback off what you just said there, but maybe AI can help save a lot of time and maybe down the road, money, right? Right now, we're hearing this year and even some last year, a lot of HRT teams have really tight budgets. And those budgets are shrinking. And I think they're shrinking a little more this year. So how, just pivoting into a new question here, how can AI help employer branders maybe do more with less?
Sure, absolutely. And that is, you're absolutely right. It is such a reality right now. I think we're really uncertain of what this is going to look like for 2025 for talent acquisition as a whole. But employer branding often doesn't get the budget it deserves, whether we're in a good economic times or not so good. And even though it directly impacts impacts hiring and, of course, retention and even business growth. But here's where AI comes in. It can help teams, of course, scale their efforts without breaking the bank. So, for example, if you need, say, social content, but don't have a content team, AI can draft it. You just humanize it. Job postings, or you want job postings that don't sound like corporate sleep aid, if you will, AI can optimize that while, of course, keeping it on brand. Another example, if you need to analyze employer reviews for trends, for example, AI can crunch that data in minutes, maybe even seconds. But here's the key. AI amplifies human intelligence. It does not replace it. And I think that's what we have to keep in mind. The smartest teams aren't using AI as a shortcut, using it to, in essence, work smarter, not harder.
Okay, yeah, that's exactly that makes sense too. We're trying to really do more with less these days, and then AI is going to help sort of bridge that gap as you were talking about there. But there's also a big concern, right, with a lot of AI generated content. A lot of it sounds the same. A lot of it is generic, maybe robotic. How can you ensure a lot of the AI that's being generated right now, feels more authentic to, especially for the company's employer brand?
Yeah, absolutely. And I love the word authentic. It's something we've been talking about for a long time in employer branding, but I think it's more important ever now because of AI. This is where so many companies go wrong. So they expect AI to be the brand instead of supporting it. So AI isn't the storyteller. Basically, we are. So I recommend a few things to tackle this. So first, train AI on your unique employer brand voice. Don't just let AI spit out content. And I see a lot of that. Feed it with content like real employee insights, your EVP framework, your messaging, your tone of voice guidelines. So it actually sounds like your brand. Use AI for efficiency, not originality. Again, another error. AI should structure content. It should repurpose it from long form articles or suggest ideas, but you provide the human touch. And of course, injecting personality, because AI can't capture inside jokes or company quirks or real employee emotions. That's where us humans come into play. So if your AI generated career site sounds bland, quite frankly, or sounds very corporate, that is not an AI problem. It's an employer branding problem.
Yeah, I know. That's going to be interesting to see how things evolve over the next, couple of years with AI and start to figure a lot of what you were just talking about. Figure those things out, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of trying to figure things out, to be honest with you, there's still this tug of war between employer branding and when it comes to like, where does it sit? Does it sit in TA or marketing or internal comms? In your view, where should employer brand live in an organization, and how should they approach that? Also with AI, tying those two together. I know it's kind of a weird question, but hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, we're just trying to figure out exactly where your employer branding is going to sit, and then how teams can approach both employer branding within that organization and using AI as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. That is a common question. Clients even ask me that. I see different posts out there about who owns employer branding. And I'm not sure there's one very certain answer. So where employer branding sits ultimately determines how AI is going to be used. So who owns it and how much budget is allocated. So for example, if employer branding, say, is under marketing, AI is typically used for brand storytelling, content automation, and audience targeting, but might not focus enough on more the candidate or the employee experience. If employer branding is under talent acquisition, AI is likely used for recruitment marketing or chatbot automation or optimizing job ads, but it might not, or it might lack a consistent employer brand voice. Now let's look at HR. So if employer branding is under HR or even internal communications, AI gets used often for employee engagement communications, sentiment analysis, advocacy programs, but they may not have enough external branding visibility. So here's the best case scenario. Employer branding isn't just siloed into one function. It bridges across marketing, talent acquisition, and HR. And then AI, well, it should be a shared tool that serves the bigger employer brand and the bigger employer brand and employer branding strategy. So we've got the employer brand internally, that strategy, but also the employer branding strategy externally.
Interesting. Yeah, You touched on a lot of things there. One of the things I've experienced too with employer brand and a lot of working with other teams, they don't really collaborate as much, or they kind of work in silos. So what's a best way for teams to collaborate instead of working in these silos?
Yeah, and I think this is where AI really is going to help that whole situation where there's not one stakeholder or one owner per se, but they all basically work collaboratively as you've described. So for me, since we're talking about AI, I think the key is building that shared AI powered employer branding hub. So really it's a central space where marketing, talent acquisition, communications, HR all align their efforts. And this isn't just theory. We actually help our clients set this up. So AI becomes a collaborative asset rather than just, another tool that kind of sits in one department. So let me give you some examples. For example, instead of each team using AI separately, let's help build a centralized AI powered kind of content hub for things like job posting, social content, brand messaging. Set up the AI powered analytics dashboard. So have it where there's a dashboard so AI can track candidate engagement, employee sentiment, and brand perception in real time. Again, looking at it holistically. So the
Wow.
dashboards can really bring employer brand data into one view. So it's not scattered across different teams and platforms, which is often what we see. For us, we use more of a client-centered AI chatbots where we train on their EVP framework, the culture messaging, variety of other data points. But so all teams, talent acquisition, marketing, HR, as I've said, communications, can easily call upon it for content, FAQs, and insights. So due to the fact you have many stakeholders, although some may feel they are the owner. To keep everyone aligned and engaged, we recommend establishing an employer brand council even with all of that. So not just having an AI where it's centralized hub that everybody goes to, but that you have a council as well as part of that team where you're coming together, making sure it's working for everyone, it's effective, but more importantly, how we're using it is authentic. So in the basic form, would be a cross-functional team that meets monthly to review AI insights, discuss trends, ensure alignment across departments. We even facilitate these discussions for some of our clients. So the companies that are going to get this right aren't just using AI, they're using it collaboratively to make their employer brand much more strategic, more data-driven, and just quite frankly, more effective.
Yeah, that makes sense. And there's so much going on right now, a lot of change. And if you get behind on all this, it's just more for you to get caught up, right?
Absolutely.
And I totally get to see where there's a lot more collaboration that's needed. Sometimes it takes an outside company like yourself to come in to help get that collaboration established. So, all right, let's pivot here for a second. I got to ask you this because this is very common. We see a lot of career sites out there, and quite honestly, it's the first impression candidates get, even if they don't know the company, they not familiar with the brand. It's really the first sort of impression that they would get if they're looking at a job, for example. But they all look the same. Every company's career site, even some of the, I'm not going to name them, but a lot of the well-known companies out there, a lot of them look exactly the same. But what's the key to using maybe AI to create career sites that actually look unique or feel unique?
Yeah. Well, so first of all, to your point, like a career site should feel like a front row seat to your culture, not just the typical who we are, what we value in a list of job postings, but AI can help in a number of strategic ways when it comes to your career site and differentiating yourself. So for example, it can tailor the candidate journey. So AI can personalize content based on the visitor's background and their interests. You can feature AI driven chatbots. So instead of the typical static FAQs, you can use a chatbot to answer real candidate questions in real time. And of course, this is a great way to even begin to nurture a relationship, even though we're using AI. It can provide dynamic storytelling on your site. So AI can ultimately surface relevant employee stories as it's needed based on what a candidate is looking at, based on the content that it's looking at on your actual website. Now, this is not all new. I can think of a number of very reputable recruitment marketing platforms that do incorporate AI, but that is also, we talked about budget earlier, that it can be exceptionally expensive. And again, this is where AI comes into play, that we can be tapping into this power at a much more cost-effective way. But I will say this, and this is a big but, AI can't invent a great employer brand. There's just no way. If a career site feels generic, and again, the problem isn't AI, it's your employer brand or your employer branding strategy, or both for that matter.
Yeah, so true. And it's going to take a good period of time to start understanding how to get these career sites that are using AI to not look the same and maybe evolve a lot more of that human feel to it, but still use AI to make it authentic. That's what we're here
Absolutely.
for. Employer Branding EXP is trying to combine the best of both worlds, AI and that human authenticity, right? Bringing it all together. So we're about to wrap up. It's very important. I want people to get to know you and how can they get connected with you and follow you and see all this stuff that you're doing.
Great. Okay. Well, I would love that. Honestly, the best place is LinkedIn. I hang out on LinkedIn quite a bit. I share as much insights as I can on the employee experience, employer branding, AI, recruitment marketing, the whole gamut. And I also run a bi-weekly LinkedIn newsletter that's called Let's Talk Employer Branding, it's packed with strategies and some real world examples as well. And again, for those who want to know more about AI, definitely encourage you to be at Employer Branding EXP. We're going to dive much deeper into this subject. Hopefully we'll see you there, but best place to reach me and connect is on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Yep. And also make sure you follow her on your LinkedIn newsletter. Let's Talk Employer Branding. I get a lot of good information from there, little nuggets here and there as well. So I appreciate you having that newsletter, and it's been very helpful for me. All right. So that's it. That wraps it up. We'll see you May 21st. It's a live virtual event, Employer Branding EXP. Make sure you, if you're watching this, make sure you get your tickets while you still can. All right. Thanks, Colette. And that's it for today. And we'll see you here real soon.
Great. Thanks, Michael.
All right. Thanks.